joining us. And thanks again to April. Applause for them. We're happy to be here and see all the great talents and creativity. We're with Powerhouse Animation, if you didn't know. We are a local Texas-run, artist-run studio for the last 21 years. And we have many different shows on Netflix, and we also have the boutique department that kind of does a lot of indie stuff and advertising as well, short form, long form, all that fun. So we're going to be talking a little bit about our pipeline and working with different people in the army of what it makes to make animation, essentially, right? My name's Mark Ryan. I am an outsource coordinator at Powerhouse, so I help with the vendors all over the world, freelancers. Now that we are fully remote, they're international as well. And I just help recruit, I help manage different types of productions and stuff like that. And I'm going to pass it over to Veronica.
Hey, I'm Veronica. So I guess technically I'm a production assistant for Castlevania Nocturne, but I also help with design and cleanup. And so animation pieces, so kind of a bit of a generalist. But my job is to help make sure production is running as smooth as it can, talk to the artists and these directors, see what they need, hunt down files, fill out spreadsheets, all that fun stuff.
Yeah, howdy all, I'm Chris Beaver. I am a director over at the studio in the background department. And 15 years ago I started over there doing motion graphics for educational software. Then I ended up doing some character animation, and I was laid off because I wasn't that good at that. But then they brought me back. And then I animated a little more, started in the layouts and backgrounds, and then I came. Yeah, now I'm basically the background art director for all kinds of weird video game cutscenes and independent projects.
Hey everybody, I'm Pedro. Been with Powerhouse for 6 years as a background artist, and recently I was background art supervisor for Masters of the Universe Revolution. I also worked on the Revelation show, so very familiar with the Masters Universe. If you guys have any questions on that too, but yeah, been in Powerhouse for a little while. The studio really changed a lot, and we're excited to explain to you guys what goes into the pipeline and all the different departments that we have here.
And all else failed. Roll. Like that. So just a little bit about Powerhouse. When it started, our owners were .com programmers and artists and stuff like that 21 years ago, which is a good amount of time now to still be in it, They moved over because they wanted to run an artist-run, studio, and it started with, little projects doing Flash and motion graphics and stuff like that, and kind of developed in the artists that were with them. As many people know their names, like the Deets and the Condos and stuff like that. Kind of grew into a development type of studio, and then it blew up when we got Castlevania, as hopefully most of you guys know about. And from there on, Netflix kind of gave us the first deal to start pushing the anime adjacent, as we call it, type of production. So that's the big type of series work we do, and then we still do the boutique type of work. We still work with a bunch of different indie studios. Devolver is one of them, Stoic, Airship. We still work in partnership with them to keep that, the lifeblood of what Powerhouse was. And we've done a lot of stuff with Sega, the Sonic cutscenes, and Super Monkey Ball, a bunch of other cool stuff like that. So that's kind of how Powerhouse works. We have a series and boutique department stuff. We're going to kind of dive into the different scales of those two types of departments. They do share a lot of the same artists. You are always going to be working in the same kind of coordination. It just depends on how large it is, right? So the boutique departments stuff where Chris and I work with a lot is going to be very fast-paced. Multiple contracts a year, different styles. You're jumping styles every day, so you have to be very versatile and stuff like that. It also helps with development on projects. So we're still for service, right? So we have writers, distributors, producers. They come to us and we help design the look for their shows, concept work, pitch decks, Bibles, and then it goes out into the world. We try to sell it, So those are our partners in LA. We also have a studio in LA that works on Blood of Zeus, everybody. May 9th, Netflix, new season of Blood of Zeus is coming out. And then the end of the year or next year is going to be Tomb Raider, so we're still in production on those. And then the series, like I said, is a larger kind of monster. It takes a long time to get things greenlit. And as everyone knows, the animation level right now is kind of depressing, so we won't talk about that. We can kind of start diving into just the beginning of how these ideas start to form with just management, our producers, our partners like that, working to get these ideas in the house so we can give artists jobs. We are some of the chaos coordinators, as we call it, to help organize these amazing artists on spreadsheets, essentially, and assets and stuff like that. Everyone can get into the industry, even if you're not an artist. I come from live action, personally.
I come from tech, which is way different on the other side,
You don't have to be Da Vinci to get to work with animation studios and stuff like that. There's so many different ways of joining the industry. And once you're in, that's what we talk about here is the networking stuff like that. Well, that's management, admin, and then pre-production, production, and post-production. We'll kind of dive into that. This next slide is going to be a little daunting, but it will kind of show you the umbrella look of what the army that it takes to make production, right? Whole lot of fun, right? So, always starts with scripts, right? I personally am a screenwriter. I feel like a lot of people have great ideas. A lot of people are screenwriters. We are first service, right? So we have a lot of production. Our producers come to us and we start developing their ideas to fit their way into this pipeline. Throughout the whole time, as far as the chaos coordinator, we're just trying to help facilitate that and have meetings that we need to.
we have all those arrows going back and forth. We're in charge of making sure those arrows actually function and that things are getting to the other, boxes and then back to that. And everything is where it needs to be. And these artists or editors, they can find your stuff. And if they can, they'll message us and be like, hey, where's this file? I keep looking on and they're like, okay, quick, found it, there you go. Where's the glue?
You guys don't want to see my tabs, so it's pretty So from the, I guess that's a good way where the arrows, right? That's an interesting way to put it. And then, so that dives into what our clients want, their vision, and we creatively have to give it to them, right? So that's notes on days just to make sure that they get what they want, and we have some sort of say in that. Then we go into design, storyboards, and backgrounds. In terms of series and boutique, it's kind of a little different. Or you guys want to start talking with boutique first in a small aspect and how into the
Sure.
series?
Normally after we get a script, typically with boutique projects, there will already be a script in place, or in some cases they'll just give us an idea and be like, we want art, please make art, and they won't be like, okay, I'll get back to you. But in general, there will be some idea, and we'll start off with either with some storyboards to kind of give a general idea to the client of what we have in mind. And meanwhile, our design team, our character artists, and the background designers, we'll start launching into figure out overall what is going to be the look of the thing. And we'll start, and from there, that'll include location design, style frames, for the background group, which means figuring out overhead maps of what a given area is going to look like. And then we'll do a couple of one or two paintings at the very beginning, just to really solve the look. The clients are going for. And again, in boutique, like that could be anything. Like some of our jobs are extremely painterly. My very like old school illustrated some like techniques and mindsets. Others are like very graphic design heavy, or like pulling from very like kind of like Saturday morning like Nickelodeon vibes, or something even completely different than that. We have to so our curriculum has a really glorious amount of versatility in order to be able to cover all those bases. And then at the same time, with series backgrounds, that's a lot more as far as I'll let you speak to that.
Yeah, that's I think where series and boutique differentiates themselves between departments more is series work tends to be a lot more streamlined, like we'll have a specific style, and a lot of times our series will look very similar from one title to the next title, like Castlevania and Tomb Raider looking very close, or Blood of Zeus, and then you have Skull Island looking a lot like Masters of the Universe and Sigma's, which was our own title, because our artists we have in general a longer schedule too, so our artists are going to stick to a show for anywhere from 1 to 2 years, sometimes maybe even a little bit longer depending on production. We'd like to say that for series work we do a little bit more realistic painting styles. We're trying to mix a lot of anime influence like Studio Ghibli and other animated TV shows from Japan, and sometimes more American stuff too. We also use a lot of 3D work. Like Chris was talking about their pipeline, and they begin, from the script, they kind of start doing sketches and paintings, and they go into this map that they need for storyboards and how to figure out the scene and stuff like that. For series, we usually go into 3D, and that becomes our map. So the 3D becomes a tool that kind of connects the storyboard department and the background department in our case. And the background artists are the first ones to give that 3D a pass. And then at the same time that we're designing, we're sketching, doing line work, doing some color thumbnails and stuff like that. We're also kind of blocking in the scene on software. We use Blender a lot for our pipeline. And then we send that out to the storyboard artists, and they'll start setting up their cameras, they'll start animating on top of that and stuff. And just to talk a little bit about character design too. So in general, background and character design work comes first, right after we get the script. And then once we start to have designs, models, character model sheets and stuff like that, we pass that along to the storyboard department, and then they can get started on their work, because we don't want those guys to be designing, we want them to be thinking solely about story and setting the scenes and cameras and stuff like that.
I will also say though that sometimes the backgrounds and character design will have to pause and wait for some storyboards, because they'll be working on the scene, they'll go out to the client, and the client's like, yeah, I don't like how that's worded at all, redo it. And so all these characters and backgrounds, are suddenly not very useful, and you find out, oh yeah, this whole cast of characters, yeah, they're not going to show up anymore. So we're going to have to cut them. And now we'll need to make some of these new characters, or like new background shots. So then it starts going, storyboards then go back to the backgrounds and character designers, and then they have to work off the boards. And so it's like a bit of a back and forth communication.
Yeah, our clients, especially for series, I don't know how much on boutique you guys have this communication, but clients always have the final say. So a lot of times, we're having a lot of fun with the design, we love the idea that we had, and we really fall in love with the baby, and the client comes in and is like, no, that doesn't work, it's not our universe. So, we have to be professionals about it and just really kind of work with the university client, especially on my experience for masters. The challenge there was trying to take all the toys in that universe and kind of keep the playful toy feeling of things, but still make it appealing as far as a painting or a more contemporary piece of artwork. So the feedback that we got a lot of the time was, no, make it look more like the toy. Look, we have the toys here. So just go back to that. So we constantly go back to source material and work with clients on that regard.
Yeah, I guess to expand on that a little more, that's a really good thing to keep in mind whenever you are in this profession, is knowing that We have our thing that we want to do to the best of our abilities. And then but at the end of the day, what we are delivering to the client is also a product that they need to achieve to achieve certain goals of theirs. And it always helps to be cognizant of that and to be thinking toward giving them what they need, and that sort of streamlines things a little bit. But those early stages of the process, I would hesitate to call it chaotic, but
It's kind of
it's
chaotic.
pretty chaotic. Okay, but it is a very organic collaboration. In those early stages of just a lot of bouncing back and forth.
You'll see
between
a
all
lot
the
of really
teams.
cool ideas just get nuked, and then you just have to cry on the inside, and no one will be able to see it. You're like, it's fine. I thought it was a really cool idea, and I was like, these artists put so much work into it, and it's like, no.
I think my favorite part is the side art that never gets published of some of these characters. We can't share it, but it's great stuff. Something to say is all these little squares, they are made up of 3 to 10 people in a team, right? Call them departments, but some of these people are bouncing around early on, and then they move on to a different department on the same production. So designs, as it says there, props, effects, characters. They're also working with the backgrounds in the sense that the colors have to be the same. The look has to be the same. So the designers are listening to the client, but then they're also thinking about spatial awareness and things like that, and then all that goes into storyboarding. And storyboarders have to have some sort of film theory. You have to have the composition, you have to have the framing, you have to have the eye, where you're drawing the eye. So that's really important for a lot of artists, that it takes a long time to get, and something that Powerhouse takes pride in is introducing an artist as an assistant or a lower tiered artist and working with them until they are a potential director, essentially. A lot of our directors started on a lower, I don't want to say lower, but they're entering the industry, and they're learning under their directors, and we're trying to create new directors for the next shows so that we always have the most talented people for specific shows. Not everyone can direct the same thing, but we always have a team or a pool of brilliant artists to pull from. So all that pre-production stuff eventually gets to some sort of agreement with the clients, right? And the editors are always there. Editors, they're the lifeblood of putting all these assets together. So like I said, you don't always have to be an artist to be part of the industry.
A lot of, I think all of our editors too have live action experience and work, and somehow ended up in animation. And they all do a magnificent job. They work with the timing and sound effects, music, and just they make some stuff they thought that looked cool, the boards, and then they hit it, and you're like, oh my god, that's amazing.
It makes you really stoked, and you see the artists kind of light up, and they're like, okay, this is coming together slowly, surely, and you get more and more stoked as it comes together. And although that leads into the biggest part of the production, the longest part of the production is going to be animation, right? So the differences between boutique and series in terms of scope, boutique is mostly going to be internal artists trying to work through all these, like I said, work through all these different styles. And we'll bring in, one of my jobs is to help always have a pool of artists to have for freelancers, because sometimes our artists either are, specializing in one thing, or we're just so busy that we need some help, So there's always a chance for networking and, trading emails with artists in Ireland and the Philippines and everywhere. If you fit the look, we're going to bring you on to help us, versus series where we work with freelancers as well, but we also work with outsourced vendors, which are going to be in Korea for the most part. But we also work with some French outsourced studios, some Mexican outsourced studios, some Filipino, Indian. There are studios everywhere that we want to bring on to help us because of the different contracts that we have going on. So in a series, we're usually trying to get all this together so we can essentially ship to outsourced studios, and it's very important that our pre-production is on point so that the constant communication between studios doesn't hit a wall and then suddenly we're back to square one designing storyboards again. Like that is the worst thing we want to do. So that communication between pre-production and then actual production is so important because the contracts are going to start getting longer. We're going to have the money's going to start going away, and if it's not done correctly, or maybe some of our clients aren't as experienced in the pipeline, that's kind of our job to make sure that they develop that experience too. So we're not wasting their money and we're not wasting our time, right?
Yeah, and to kind of further dive into the communication as in the interaction between us and outsourcing studios, we do, during the shift that Mark mentioned, we'll send packages to them. So we'll send like a black and white package, we'll send a color package, and that package includes, the animatic that you see here, layouts, color scripting, swatches and style guides. It includes basically the artwork that we do in pre-production. We put it all on a folder and we send it off to, in my case, I've worked at the Korean studios, but so we send them the package, send them the animatic, and they can use all they use all of that as reference material to build the series that you guys see on Netflix. So they'll do really like the heavy lifting of the animation, but all based on these packages that we send them.
Yeah, there was I think it was a Little Big Dreams or something, the one Disney show. Where people they had a whole episode that went into like the animation production, and they kind of showed it too, like. And as they finished doing the house and they sent overseas, they're all chanting like, "Make it work, make it work!" Woo! It's all like it all gets wrapped up in like a package, and since it's shipped out, it's like the olden days they actually would have to get it shipped out. Now it's just digital.
Yeah, we definitely have some stories of piles of drawings on paper. So like a lot of our OG artists still come from that world, and Powerhouse is one of those studios that want to have that paper feel still. Like we're still hand drawn. We're still hand drawing. There's no AI. There's no AI. It's like we're doing it frame by frame. That's why it takes freaking forever. And we do internally hold on to those special scenes. Our directors will have those scenes that are close to their heart, and they assign them to the people that are going to do that the best internally, and make sure that what you call them the soccer ball scenes. You know what I mean? Where that's where our artists shine. And not that we can't trust other studios doing it, it's just we know that our artists that we hired, that we trained, that have been with us can do it in a lot of time and make our directors happy, essentially, which makes our clients happy.
And that's also necessary communication too with the outsourcers. You tell them like, hey, don't work on these shots, we're doing it. Or hey, so we're doing the animation for this shot, but we need you guys to do the backgrounds for it based off the boards. And so there's a lot of making sure you plan it all out with what you're gonna do in-house before you even ship. And have that communication with the people you're working with so they know, all right, we don't need to waste time doing this because, you guys got it. And that, saves them time and money.
Yeah, and then I suppose on a much smaller scale, this is how we operate with freelancers as well. Is that we can get in touch with folks who help out with this or this shot, or hey, we have 5 paintings that we need that we just aren't going to be able to get done otherwise. Can you help us? And we'll be able to package up whatever network we have been able to create that we can show. And coordinate with people on an individual basis as well as on a grand basis with the outsourced studios.
Yeah, it's the importance of specialization versus just general art, depending on how you adapt. And if you want to specialize, you can find partners like Powerhouse that will come back to you over and over and over because we can trust you. And we have freelancers that have worked on every single one of our series at different times, and we pull them into boutique, so it's not always just our internal people piece, but it's also these famous handles that you see on Twitter and these really amazing artists out there helping us get to the goal. So this production, even though it's so small, the orange production, it's probably the largest. It's the longest time. This is months. I mean, in boutique, obviously, it's a little shorter, but in series, this is months, just weeks of us going back and forth, client, vendors, or partners, internal, going back and forth, making sure that we're getting those milestones. And really important are those milestones. Any artist doing any job should be able to show their clients the milestones and how you're going to reach them. Very important to have that personal management, even if you're all creative, right? And I'm not an artist, right? But I love organizing those spreadsheets. I mean, my Instagram is full of spreadsheet lingo and stuff like that. So if you're going to specialize in something, it doesn't, if it's going to be art or organizing or the producer side of it, it's going to take a long time, and you're going to have to show your work essentially to your clients, and just be open to changing things to make sure that you're not taking things personal. That you're always going to get notes, no matter how perfect you are. You're always going to get notes, and you just have to make sure that everyone is working to get to the final thing. And which we end up seeing streamers now, maybe silver screen one day, but that's the hope. So as we're going through production, all these little bugs are getting fixed. On that note, something to mention is our scripters, not unsung heroes, the ones that are actually coding our software, our Adobe products, our Blender, all that stuff, Toon Boom, our script, it all has to be coded. So that's not an artist, even though ours is an artist, but that's someone that's specialized in coding, and to make sure that our systems work together with our creative studios. It's so important that a lot of people don't understand that if you have a passion for art, you can find a way to get into the industry. That's just one of the examples. As we're getting back from our partners, or we're pushing into internal, there's always going to be these updates and fixes, no matter how good you are. Our target artists are saviors. They're the ones that go in and fix frame by frame.
Sometimes we have to fix like maybe 40% of an episode.
Yeah,
It's a lot of work.
Just to give some context, targets are the general file format for the images that we tend to get back from outsourced studios. So target artists, people like making adjustments to those.
Yeah, and so if you think back during the day when it was still on cells and painted, the targets are those painted cells. So there's each shop, here's the collection of those painted cells, here you go. And then when it comes to updating fixes, we take those painted cells and then we paint over them and then give them to our compositor and everyone's like, all right, here you go.
And that's where you get a lot of like the emotion of the characters and the close-ups and stuff like that, because this is going frame by frame. We do the best we can based off of the time that we have allotted, and as many of our animators probably say, please don't scroll through our artwork frame by frame, because it's not going to look like it is. There's a reason why cartoons are the way they are, because it's supposed to be fluid, and they take that very seriously.
We even have running jokes where we'll stop an animation just in the middle of the action, take screenshots of the characters' faces, just like doing the most horrendous.
But that's the point. That's the creativity.
Make some memes out of it.
Yeah.
Whatever they can do.
The internal memes that everybody mentioned are cool. We can show. So we're going back and forth on all these connections, or all these different variables, moving so often. The hope is that there's no big roadblocks that jump in the way, either internal work, clients, or something like that. Because this is months, even years sometimes. So the hope is that everything we've been doing, and we've done it already now for however long we've been doing it on these series, we have our centralized concepts and stuff like that, but it does take a while to figure that out. So even in the indie animation world, it's done just like this, just on a smaller scope. And if you follow this type of mentality of like, make sure you do it right the first time, or make sure it's done right the first time, then once you're at the compositing level, at the post-production level, then you won't have to be pulling your hair out for more months.
Or redoing an entire episode.
Which kind of happens, which you just have to learn to deal with. So Go
I
ahead.
was just gonna explain a little bit more of the back and forth process. So after we send, the black and white packages, the color packages and all that, we work with our partner studios in takes. So they'll send us a first take, second take, and third take on every episode. And each take, we send them back notes, we can draw work for them. So pretty much like critique the work that they're doing, send that back to them, and then they send us a new take with improved, character animations, background paintings, and stuff like that. And then after the third take is usually when we take things in-house. So, that's when we'll fix the target fixes that we were just talking about. We'll fix background paintings that need to be fixed. We'll expound on the animation, we'll improve animated shots, or we'll kind of, like you guys are talking about too, like sometimes we just redo or rework completely on some animation. Especially the psychorealism, sometimes we've been working on it, but we'll send it to our partner studio so they can do the filler work, and then that comes back to them, and we'll touch that back up. And as far as backgrounds go, sometimes we do have to, repaint. We have anywhere between 300 to 400 paintings in an episode, because every shot, so every time there's a cut, there's a new background that has to be painted, and sometimes we'll, retouch 300 or.
So sometimes it gets up to like 600.
Yeah, the episodes can get very big. That's also why we try to limit the runtime of most episodes. We usually work with around 20, 22, 25 minutes, right?
And I mean, that also goes back, once all that to say, you think about how important like a storyboard is actually at that point, because you're not just trying to tell the story so it works and it affects the audience, but you also try to think about your background artist and outsource you, make sure that when we are hitting this point that everything you framed is actually not going to take too much time or too much heart or something like that. So there is a beauty into telling the story in the cleanest way and without overworking your fellow artists, essentially.
Yeah, but those constraints can be really valuable because, if you're operating in a vacuum, then there is the risk of being like, oh yeah, I'm going to design this shot with this cool camera move, arcing around the character. Big one, this and that, that's great. When you're drawing storyboards, then when you get to having to design the backgrounds to accommodate for them, for that camera move and the change in lensing and such, and you're sending it to the animation team, and they're like, oh, so I have to animate this character rotating in space, and it's from the beginning, it's really good to think ahead, toward the needs of your team, and what they'll be able to realistically do in the time that they have.
Sometimes the clients ask something and it's just like, no, we can't do that. Let's have a conversation about how we can do this.
They love writing the script, these shots and oh, you're coming in and you have to see all these people in the crowd and crowds. You have people over here reading newspapers and people over here chatting, and this is all seeing this, and then the director you have to draw all of that.
Please calm down on the crowd scenes.
Yeah, this is one of the rules of animation apparently. Writers love crowd scenes, and animators hate crowd scenes.
You'll see a lot of in the crowd. You'll see a lot of actual artists. They draw themselves in it when they come down. And there's a lot of cool Easter eggs out there online if you want to check those out. And then all that comes to our wizards, our magicians, right? Obviously, our editors are throwing everything together the whole time. There's renders every week. Everyone does reviews through the whole time. So you're sitting there with your team, nitpicking, notes are expanding, and making sure that everything's getting done right. Sound effects is getting thrown in their music, and you're starting to really feel it. When our compositors get it, that's when it starts to look like what we see, right? They're the magicians, they're the ones adding the colors, the FX on the FX, right? There's so much more into that, it's just even hard to just break down. If you are a compositor, we love you so much.
If you're an artist and you work on illustrations, big compositing is when you're adding those layers that have overlay or multiply or soft glow, things like that. That's all done by compositors. The animation we get back is super flat. There's no environmental lighting at all. There's no depth, perception really. So projects have to go and they have to make it the right time of day, they'll add some blurring for people who are moving farther away from the camera, add in some of the lighting effects, particles.
And boutique, actually, they're the ones doing the camera moves, which is interesting because it's a little different than series in some cases because they're the ones moving the camera, doing the rack focuses, and along with our scripter who's developed the buttons and the actual coding to replace every single color or every single line to make sure that the textures are right. And to go back to what Powerhouse loves to do is like we love to go back to our roots, and we're known for that, and we want our lines to look like every single one is drawn by hand. And there's a texture to them. Saturday night cartoons or Saturday morning cartoons are always thrown at us. We want the nostalgia of that. That's what we want to inspire. Don't get me wrong, we do get a lot of people coming to us wanting something else, and that's something that we can do. But that's something that Powerhouse is known for. And the compositors are working with giant files. The server is something everyone needs to always, as an artist, individualize. As you all know, the technology is very important, right? What you're drawing on and how it's, and the hard drives and memory and the software. It's a whole shebang.
Render machines.
Yeah, our server room is ridiculous, and things that people don't really think about is that's also adding time to the schedule. We love when people online are like, well, it took me this long. And I was like, yeah, you should look at this and see how long it actually takes. So the compositors are throwing it all together, making it look pretty, as we say. We'll start sending stuff over to clients, but this is kind of what we're looking at in the final look, right? And they'll come back and forth, more back and forth. And this is still actually happening during production, bleeding into post-production. And the hope is, after weeks or months and stuff like that, we start getting a scene done, of thousands of frames. And hopefully that scene, it will be the scene that the whole show is looking like, or the whole sequence, and then the sequence bleeds into the episode, and then the whole show, right? So all that leads up to the compositors throwing it together. And as background artists, you guys are going back and forth with compositors.
Like the compositors like to tell us is compositing starts with the PSD that we send their way, and a lot of times it can be frustrating because you like I said, we have 300 backgrounds to work on, but we have to make sure that all of those are working for compositors, and sometimes that means that we have to split it up into layers so that they can sandwich the characters between background art. So we have foreground elements like grass or vegetation or rocks or something like that, and then the action is happening between that first layer and the actual background painting in the very far. Sometimes we have to make sure that if we have painted effects like smoke or fire or anything along those lines, sometimes we'll paint those in. We'll make them what we call background art, which means just it's like a flat kind of bitmap layer in Photoshop, and then compositors will take that, they'll animate it, they'll kind of add a flair to it and stuff like that. So backgrounds and compositors collaborate a lot, and it's funny that in the beginning it feels like we're collaborating a lot with storyboards, and then in the end it feels like we're collaborating a lot with the compositing team.
Yeah, and I would say especially in the boutique department, that's also very true for the animation team. The notes and exports that we need to make from Martin sometimes, or crazy on some occasions.
This goes back to scripting. Where scripting has to be perfect.
Our animation supervisor Tyler was telling me a week or so ago about we were talking about this one scene and this is gonna take 36 layers of animation. That's gonna go into compositing. It's that's unfortunate, but it's necessary. And that is not the normal. Just put that out there. It's always a running conversation of making sure that you're working in an efficient enough way that you're giving the compositors what they need to be able to do their thing. And the same comes for the background, the layout artists, again, being able to set the stage in such a way that when the animation is overlaid over it, like everything's in the proper perspective. And like all those little details, like it's all it's all a lot of people like doing a lot of jobs, but everybody's job is kind of dependent on what the other people are doing too.
Yeah, and also character design. We'll come back to compositing. Sometimes when it goes to the color, like you have a character wearing a bunch of white, but the white is just slightly different colors of white, and you need to make sure that maybe enough of a range that if the animator didn't realize that there are different kinds of white and used the wrong one, and next thing you know, it comes to compositing and it gets colored all weird, and then the compositor's like, why did you design this with all these different types of whites? We are dying, please help us. Same with blacks too, characters wearing a lot of black, and it's like, okay, and the blacks having different effects to them. You want one to be shinier, the other one to be more matte. Okay, well, these need to be different colors, for it to work in compositing. And so then that's bouncing back and forth.
You kind of hope that you can plan for everything, but you never can. So that's just why we hire the people we do and why we train the people that we have, is because they're used to getting this stuff from either the client or a team member and just knowing exactly how to fix it. So character designers suddenly are in post-production, which they may have never thought they would be doing, but now they're specializing in it, and now they're a supervisor, and now they have a whole team under them, right? So you can grow within a production towards the end of the production. You're leading the next production, which is extremely cool at Powerhouse that you can do that.
Also with series, as you're working on one episode, you're working on another one at the same time. Because it takes about maybe a year to do one episode, and you gotta get multiple out within 2 years. So, after a few weeks, if working on episode 1, you start working on episode 2, and after a few weeks of that, you start episode 3, and so it's tiered, and you have all these little pieces going, but you're going for multiple episodes at the same time.
Oh, and then you gotta coordinate with voiceover after.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, a whole lot of fun, right? So we don't do we help direct the voiceover actors, right? But we don't hire them. That's up to our clients. They're essentially vendors. Our outsourced department is gonna help coordinate all that stuff. But if we gotta get Mark Hamill in to do another line, we have to make sure that the art is what it needs to be, because that's, I guess, kind of an important person, So the planning really is important. Our chaos coordinators are kind of trying to hold it all together.
This is why having production staff is very important, and same with spreadsheets. This is all being tracked on spreadsheets. Multiple spreadsheets.
We gotta look at really cool art along the way, so that's the thing. So all the compositors are working, at that point the compositors are working with the editors, right? The editors are trying to help with the sound, with our sound partners, and going back and forth with compositing. The hope is that we aren't going back in animation ever at that point. That's the hope. You never know, right? There's always going to be some, executive that wants to change something at the last second, and you just gotta do it. So we're throwing that all together, and then at that point, the cool thing happens where our distributor usually at this point would be Netflix, starts spending us for promo art, which is super fun. We get to do the advertising and the cool, the posters, the square. What was the New York Square? The Times
Square billboard.
Oh, sure. Yeah. That's a character designer, So that person is still on the production, even doing social media stuff and all that stuff. So that's when it's getting fun, and we're starting just to hand it over, and it's no longer ours. The giant files are no longer ours, and it's their responsibility. And we all bring a sigh of relief, right? Do you guys have anything to add on delivery and final edits and stuff like that?
Not particularly, but I guess going back real quick to the staggering of the episodes. And how y'all stay in production from juggling the crew from one to the next.
Even seasons.
Even seasons.
like the way that tends to manifest over in the boutique department is that like we have like all these different jobs that we bring in like at the same time. And so like we'll end up sliding into a groove a little bit of like we'll work on like this project for a few days and like then that'll go to the clients. While we're waiting on feedback from those clients, then we'll be working on this other job and then like we'll partner back and forth between that. Like that's how we end up like working on like 6 different projects like at the same time.
And they're doing, you know, a lot of company or a lot of producers come to us and like, well, we want to look like Castlevania. Like, okay, well, that's a long project, you know. But then a lot of them, we still are, you know, passionate about just traditional cartoons. You know, like the cuter the better. Our artists can do the variety, especially in the boutique department. So like, the directors in the boutique department are very versatile in the sense that they can do, you know, Saturday morning cartoons and then go into anime adjacent. So I don't want to get in trouble, right? Calling it anime adjacent type of cartoon. At the end of the day, they're cartoons and we like to have fun with them. And the boutique department, I feel like, gets to play around a little bit more than in the series. But boutique artists get to work on series too. So, you know, if they want to get that IMDb credit, or they want to design that one character from their favorite show, they get thrown into there. And that's the beauty of Powerhouse, is to be able to trade the artists out because we know that they can do it, they're talented in that way.
Yeah, it's been in a few series productions where Powerhouse kind of hires itself for some specific needs. So we'll bring in boutique artists to work with us on, you know, color scripts and some background paintings and stuff sometimes. So.
And we do have, I always forget to mention, we do have an LA studio too. They specialize in blood and right now. So and boutique helps them also. That's a cool partnership that we have with the team. All that to say, then we deliver, right? And then we get to have the premiere, and you guys get to see the cool art, right? Long road, a lot of people, a lot of moving parts, but the best part is getting in and honestly watching that meme reel of all the things that you guys can't see.
And on deliveries too, when our shows come out on Netflix, don't forget to give it a double thumbs up.
Yes, so I mean, and a lot of people, everyone knows Castlevania, right? We kind of made, not to toot our own horn, but we were the first, I mean, outside of, I don't know, Tron or something weird like that. We were the first like anime adjacent Netflix thing that we did. The first season of Castlevania was 4 episodes. We showed them that it could be possible, that it could be popular. And it made waves. And now we have Netflix executives in Japan, and it's the biggest movement that we've ever seen, you know, and not pat on the back, but that was us, you know. And just to list them out, you know, our personal home IP with Seis Manos is out there, so our Mexican animation is out there, which is beautiful, grindcore. It's still out there on Netflix. Castlevania, Skull Island, Tomb Raider's coming out soon, Blood of Zeus, Master Universe. They're all still out there. Yeah, give them the thumbs up and double thumbs up. It goes a long way. The algorithm is very favorable.
But as you can see, with all of this and all the moving parts, communication really is key. Like, you need to be able to communicate with people, and you need people to communicate back with you. It is sometimes a little frustrating to get an artist or one of the parts where like they do amazing art for sure, but then they just ghost you for weeks, and you're like, okay, but Veronica Catline is still moving. We still need to get this done. And like lots of like, hey, is everything okay? You know, what's up? And it's just silence.
Yeah, not to be rude, but we do have a blacklist, so just be careful.
Yes, you totally get blacklisted if you did not communicate. And like, you don't even need to say much. Just be like, yeah, I worked on his art. Hey, something came up, and I hope you'll get this done. You know, stuff like that. And I'm like, okay, cool. We can give it to someone else.
We can be pretty lenient too, because we have artists that are on like Word or 2 or something, and they're like over. Yeah, exactly. And it's like, oh my god, I'm so sorry. Like, yes, give us artwork, and we'll pay you for the little time that you did that. But the ones that never tell us anything, they have our files, and that can be dangerous for them. When our clients show up with their lawyers, that could be an interesting thing. So to be able to just own your work, whether it's good or bad, and then talk to us about it, and then interdepartmental, you know, you have supervisors and directors over here, they have to know how to tell someone that their art isn't up to snuff or just needs to change in the right way, so it is beneficial to them and they can grow as artists to become directors as well. Right? Do you have any director kind of notes, advice? Notes are the hardest thing to give and to take. So.
Well, sorry. Yeah, like, I guess, thing number one to know about notes is just, like, they are virtually inevitable. Like, whenever you're working on a project, even our greatest artists, will get notes, because, that's just kind of the nature of the beast. Clients have needs, the crews have needs, there's just so many points of failure that need to be smoothed out during the design process. And
Everyone loves giving the Eastboro's notes.
Yeah. And so it's really beneficial in this career to have kind of a thick skin toward that, to be aware of it is not about this is not about me, this is not about my work even necessarily. You can turn in something that's absolutely beautiful, but it doesn't quite fit the needs of the brief. And that's what we're generally trying to pull toward.
Yeah, never take notes personally. Literally everyone gets notes. Our character designers are top tier artists. Oh my god, I'm amazed. On that Netflix, whatever. Nocturne on what they can do, and I wish I could draw like they do. And they'll still get covered. They are covered in red lines. They'll be like, no, you need to change this. And they are amazing. But it just notes will happen. Your art will have notes on it. Your animation will have notes. Your compositing, shots will have notes, backgrounds. It will happen no matter how good you are.
Yeah, and I guess that being said, what is good is knowing the right questions to ask at the outset, to kind of reduce those notes going forward. You can again, going to communication being key. If you're ever unclear about an aspect of a scene you're working on or such, it's really good to just reach out and ask those clarifying questions at the beginning. Hey, is that what perspective is the camera for this, or what did, or this or that. And also making sure that you're adapting properly to the technical needs of it. For example, our artists can completely ruin somebody's day by simply unchecking an anti-aliasing setting. There are potentially things in the file that can go really wrong, and they look good, but you don't know necessarily until it comes back sometimes some very subtle changes sometimes result in very catastrophic issues. And so you just need to be aware of when an art style calls for brushes need to be anti-aliased or aliased rather. Making sure that's checked, making sure that the stage size of the scene is correct. All of those. Ideally those are issues that will be presented to you at the beginning, with that design brief of when we're sending all of the information and artwork to you to reference. It's just it comes down to really critically paying attention to all of them, to all those making sure that you're again giving the crews what they need.
Also, if you happen to not get an asset or a background, please let the production people know. Do not assume what a blob is, because you will get it wrong. And then it'll pass out, and next thing you know, we have to scramble and they animated this whole sequence with a character that we don't even have. What? And it hooks up to another shot where the character needs to be, and it's completely wrong. Oh my god, are you have to reanimate all this stuff? Like, ask. Don't assume.
Yeah.
Never assume.
All the communication always leads to something that, at least at Powerhouse, we're going to try to inspire and avoid is crunch and burnout. Right? That's what our industry is known for, is being really good at that. And we don't want to do that. And we're trying to change the industry so that doesn't happen anymore. So all the communication, all the personal management, the file management, the specs, all that goes into the places. Like we're just making cartoons, guys. Like there's no reason anyone should be ruining their lives over this, hurting their bodies over this. And that's something we have to pay attention to, you know. And if you don't say something, then no one's going to know, and everyone's going to feel bad about it. So you have to be able to speak up and say what is too much, or say if you want more, and make sure that you help us first always, right? And all I'd say, patience. I mean, that's you don't need to explain that, right? We all. It's a professional world. We work with art, but it's a professional world, you know. And in terms of trying to, you know, bleed into the industry and get into the industry, it takes a lot of personal management and soul searching to try to figure out that niche you want to be into. You know, I mean, we're in an indie Comic-Con, which shows you just the beautiful variety of what art can be. And if you're trying to get into something a little more mainstream, that's when you have to start thinking about how much time you have to make this art, and how much you want to not burn yourself out to try to get into Powerhouse or something like that. You know, like if you're going to develop a portfolio to get into Powerhouse, make sure you're focusing on art shows and stuff like that. But you also have to have different examples. Your portfolio should be a variety of things if you're trying to enter the industry. Because, like I said, we have normal Saturday morning cartoons, and then we have this anime adjacent stuff, right? And in terms of like portfolios, I mean, we're reviewing portfolios all the time, and making sure that if you're going to be coming into our pipeline, it's not just the art, but it's also the person. So goes straight back to communication. Your art is going to be amazing, probably, you know, but if you can't get through the door of an interview, then maybe a personal thing. You have to work that out, and how you converse with your supervisors and stuff like that. Right? Do you guys have anything to say about portfolios or designing?
Yeah, I was just gonna say that and I'm sure Chris is probably gonna say the opposite of what I'm about to say, but for series work, I feel like being more of a specialist will help you, especially if you're looking into being like a character designer. You know, have a character designer art portfolio. You know, really tailor it to whatever it is the job position you're looking for. Or if you want to work for backgrounds, have some Castlevania style backgrounds, some Sigma style backgrounds. You know, put in your portfolio the kind of work that you want to do professionally for the screen, basically. So.
And to carry on that, like, yeah, so coming from boutique, like, I do need to carry the torch for versatility, like, different styles, always great. Like, yeah, like, always be learning. But also, like, yeah, like, at the end of the day, you want to make sure that anything and everything you put into your portfolio is something that you would want to do. Like, there is, yeah, like, I have seen cases of, like, people, don't pad out their portfolio with, like, background paintings or such, like, when they have no desire to, work in backgrounds, but they were told by somebody who liked them that, like, there was good work, that was, like, steady work and all that, so you had to have some backgrounds in that. But if that person were brought in, like, as a background painter or something like that, then the ultimate result of that would just be, like, a visual, like, exhaustion and, like, burnout, like, yeah, like, being the right fit for the job. And, like, and then, like, having a good time in their life. And none of us want that. Like, we want we want to, like, be seeing, like, creators, like, having a great time, like, on their respective journeys. And first step in that is being clear from the outset of, like, what you want that journey to be.
I think we're running towards the end now. I think we can take some Q&As or some questions.
you're gonna get a lot of questions from people wanting to start out with, and a lot of your advice is good, but it seems pretty basic. There's like, have a good portfolio, understand that there is a process, where, you know, the more versatile you are, the more hireable you are. And it is also how you present yourself as a human being. Are just a lot of people wanting to get in this industry getting a lot of that wrong? I don't want you to call out too many people, but, you know, what are the kinds of things that are, what kind of things get people on your blacklist?
Yeah, well, I mean, I can tell you in my position, I go through 200 portfolios a day. That's kind of my job. So I'm always looking to see a job that may come across that I may need to reach out to these people. But I have these people reaching out to me as well personally over and over again, and you think that'd be annoying, but I actually love it. The persistence of seeing someone's portfolio change over time, the persistence of reaching out and in the nicest of ways too, is really important because it's all about timing. As much as I feel like I have many artists that I would love to work with, we may just not have a job for you initially. So the emails are a thing, the presenting yourself, the networking, and showing up and be like, oh yeah, I know your tag, I know your handle, I know your reel, I know your 2021 reel versus your 2023 reel. Like we don't mind. It's what we do. We love looking at the art. Personally, I think persistence is going to be the first thing because the timing is going to be the only thing that works. You know, I've had artists reach out to me and the timing just didn't work. 3 months later, we hire them for the job. They're freelancing, and then 3 months later, they're on payroll. They're an employee. You know, so I think that helps the most. Is just keep at it and just hit us up over and over and over.
Also, for series, I can talk like, for Castlevania, when we're looking for artists, we're looking for like a really high level of draftsmanship and be able to do those crazy anime fight scenes or like really strong emotional, like, we're not gonna really be looking for a newbie artist. So, and which sucks because having gone out in college and trying to find a job in animation is really, really tough, and you have to either find some entry job or like just really knock it out of the park. But like, if you see Castlevania, we have those fight scenes, those are the people we're hiring for like that. So like, you need to have a character flipping around and being on model, the camera zooming around them, and like, it's that level that we have to look for. So it's already a smaller pool that we're going to be getting from, and that's where the communication adds up. Is like, it's a tiny pool, and if you can't communicate from that tiny pool, like, I don't care how good you are, I make a character flip around and have the camera zoom around them, I do not want to work with you.
Yeah, again, I guess I would say it is, you know, it is true that a lot of the advice we're offering, like, this is pretty fundamental, but, like, it is just that, like, fundamental. Like, it's kind of like the same way, like, you probably won't have a good time as a football player if you never do sprints. Like, it's very, yeah, but it's very basic. Like, also, like, yeah, we do see occasional examples of, like, yeah, like, working with artists and seeing these things not shake out in the way that you would expect. And like it is just a reality of like working with artists. And like so like we just wanna like offer to everybody here like these being like really great touchstones to keep in mind like, as if you're starting into a career or looking to like get into the studio such as this.
And reach out to people, you know, just email them, message them. You know, if you're on their radar, you never know if one day you'll hit that note perfectly and we'll bring you on.